Wherever you are in the world or wherever you are on your journey, welcome to the Recovery Journey podcast with Horizon Behavioral Health, where we know recovery is possible and every day is a second chance. Are you struggling with substance use addiction or worried about a friend or a loved one? You're not alone in this fight. We're here with some special guests joining us from their unique place of recovery or a supportive role in helping others on their recovery journey. So today we're here to talk about recovery, and I know our listeners are hoping to hear from some of our brave guests who have battled with addiction and are walking their own unique recovery journey. And so I'm going to introduce to you two of those brave individuals. We have Priscilla Pritchard, who's sitting right across the table from me. Hi, Priscilla.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. And we also have Kendall Dolan sitting to my right. How are you doing this morning?
I'm good.
Good. So Priscilla and Kendall are both peer recovery specialists. And as I understand it, we were just talking a little bit, you all are in a little bit of a different phase of that journey of getting your certification. Priscilla, I'd love to talk to you about kind of where are you in your journey first for, becoming a certified peer recovery specialist?
So right now I'm working on getting my hours so that I can become certified and be able to help others, in their addiction recovery process as well.
Awesome. And Kendall, you are already a certified peer recovery specialist. So what does that look like in your role here at Horizon?
Well, Horizon actually helped me become certified, which helped a lot. I kind of walk alongside people to be a mentor, and be a positive support for them in the recovery journey. So
awesome. And what brought both of you guys to feel so passionate to want to kind of pursue that? It's how many hours goes into it? It sounds like it's 500,
right?
500 hours. Yeah. So it's pretty intensive. You guys must feel really motivated to kind of help others. Like what's that motivation come from?
For me, when I went through family treatment docket, I had a peer that really made a positive influence on me. And from the start of my recovery until the very end of drug court, I had said that I wanted to be a peer. So as my graduation gift, I was gifted the 72-hour class. So that was really cool.
Wow. That's so wonderful. And how about you, Priscilla?
Yeah, so my journey began, I guess it pretty much happened when I started at Horizon. I got a chance to get a furlough, which was spend time in a recovery house versus behind bars. So it was at Horizon. Then I got, I started an IOP group, which was the intensive outpatient program. And the ladies in the house were just super cool. So between, learning coping skills and getting set up with the right resources, I found, that I really enjoyed the way that they gave back. So that was something right early that I wanted to do.
That's awesome. And you mentioned about the women's recovery program. What was it like being kind of introduced to a community of people that were also, wanting to focus on their recovery and also just wanting to serve you, and help you accomplish your goals from a recovery standpoint?
At first, it was extremely weird because I was like, why do these people like me and smile at me if they only knew, but they did know. And that, that was the big part of it, them wanting to see the best in you and help you grow. And that's really important.
Yeah, that's so special. And funnily enough, we've got Regina Fitzgerald here, a residential manager at Horizon who works with our women's recovery program. So speaking of which, one of those ladies in the flesh, huh? So Regina, yeah, thanks for being here. Could you tell us a little bit more about the women's recovery program?
Yes, I can. Women's recovery was opened in 2017. We were one of the first in the state to have a 3.1 ASAM program, which is technical talk for how Medicaid and Department of Behavioral Health views it and license it. So we opened in 2017, and we have been in 3 different locations. We are now currently in the Bedford community. We have served approximately about 1,000 women since 2017. Ladies come to us from all different types of referrals. Some are off the street, some are furloughs, some are on bond, some come from the drug court dockets, some come from case management, hospitals, jails. We have a variety of referral sources that come to us. When they are with us, the ladies are engaged in treatment. We do help get them into intensive outpatient treatment. We encourage NA, AA. We encourage someone getting a sponsor. We do at least 5 hours of in-house treatment a week, such as groups. We do life skills. We do coping skills. We try to help the women set up a schedule, getting up on time, going to bed on time, personal hygiene, mental health hygiene. We also look at helping people maintain accountability. We do have a lot of rules, but one of our biggest rules is they must maintain sobriety while you're in the house. So we do random drug screenings just to help encourage accountability for that. We provide transportation to and from treatment, to and from doctor's appointments, to and from probation offices, whatever we can do to help encourage an individual maintain their sobriety, maintain links into the community. We encourage employment. If someone finds a job that is local, we will help with transportation to and from employment. It's a safe environment. It's all women, and so everyone is in one form of a stage of recovery. Not always in the same stage, but they are in the same boat, and so they oftentimes form this magical bond between the ladies, between each other, and they become almost friends for life because they have each other to rely on.
That's amazing. And we have Priscilla here, who was actually a part of that. So Priscilla, do you have any fond memories you'd love to share with our listeners here about that experience, or maybe even like what brought you to the Women's Recovery House, from the get-go?
The Women's Recovery House, I came out on a furlough. A furlough was, no jail time. You can do it and try and get help in the process, which I think is a great option for everyone, because when you're in jail, all you hear about is the bad stuff and what they're going to do next. And that's just not very
conducive or helpful
at all.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I chose the furlough to go out there. And, like Regina was saying, I mean, I met plenty of girls, some which I still are in contact with. Some are no longer with us. But either way, the fact that, being able to interact with people again, even, in a positive way, that's really what does it.
And, there's a great community there, which I'm sure was super impactful to you. And in addition to some of the services that Regina mentioned, how about just like the environment of, kind of having an opportunity to step away from, I guess, maybe like the influences of the outside world, and I would assume like maybe a lot of temptations and things of that nature. Was that helpful as well?
Yes, everything about what they're doing was great. They gave us just enough leadway, to where there was so much positive that came out of it. Everybody was, we had phone numbers, we had cell phone numbers, we had resources. They definitely encourage, like she said, accountability and, getting out there and doing something for yourself, and feeling a worth again as a woman, because, that can be very hard. Especially after going through the trauma when you're, in addiction. There's other things that come with that. So,
yeah, of course. Yeah, I can only imagine. So what would you say was one of the biggest factors to, achieving recovery and, where you are today?
I always said I was not going to be a statistic. I refused to be a statistic. And something we learned early, in the 12-step groups, as she was saying, going to the different fellowships and, there's all these different things, but I didn't want to be a statistic. I'd already been to jail. I didn't really think that, ever, I guess, about, not being here anymore. That's the easy way to put it. But at the same time, I really didn't care when I was in active addiction. So just having that second chance to be able to live life and to do it right, I just stayed determined, and I set super small goals that were attainable. That way I wouldn't have to be discouraged about anything. I could always have a positive.
Did your team in the program kind of help you think about those goals and make steps towards achieving them? Was that one of the ways that they supported you?
Oh, absolutely. Self-care is a big thing. So having the coping skills, having the resources, getting someone to talk to, a therapist, a sponsor, having accountability partners, all of that stuff is just it was life-saving and life-changing, and I couldn't be more blessed.
At some point, I'm sure along your journey, we all find ourselves in a place where maybe we let ourselves down, or we don't achieve the goal that we were looking to reach, or maybe we let somebody we love down. And I'm just kind of wondering, when you found yourself in that place, because we all do, what helped you get back on track?
Really, it was just using my resources, reaching out and calling someone. Everybody's been through something. That's the whole point in having peer recovery specialists, and that's being able to reach out to someone who can help. Who can give positive advice that's been there before.
So who has been your first call?
My mom,
Your
believe it or
mom.
not. Yeah, but at first, it was my peer recovery specialist. That's who I had formed a bond with the most, knowing that they had years of going through what I'd went through. That was, it's nice to have someone that relates to you, not that just has letters behind their names or, because I was very timid and thought everybody was after me in early recovery. So, yeah.
And Kendall, you're here with us also as a certified peer recovery specialist. So I would love to know, just in your role and coming alongside of other men and women who are in recovery, what is one of the things that you enjoy the most about, being able to walk alongside them and support them?
I think it would be watching them succeed. It's so good to see people doing better and, not living the life that they were living. And just being able to help them alongside of that, it's really fun to watch.
And how would you encourage our listeners on the, listening in here today on the podcast? How would you encourage them to support a person who is struggling with substance use addiction?
Talk to them about anything and everything. If they need help making appointments, going to appointments, advocating for them as much as you can, things like that. So.
And we talked about, transportation being a challenge for some folks, right? With our women's recovery program. And, it's great when there's groups like our women's recovery program at Horizon that can kind of, help to mitigate those barriers. And is that something that, you can also, slide in to help?
Yes. Thankfully, I do have a company car and I'm able to take them really anywhere they need to go as long as it benefits them in their recovery. So
that's so wonderful.
And I think it's cool because, we get that one-on-one time to really talk and, not be in a group or, I really get to know them a lot more on a more personal level.
Yeah. So. Long car rides tend to do that to us, don't they? Whether we like it or not. So, Kendall and I were just talking a little bit before we got started about, how do we help to kind of push people in the direction of something like a program of women's recovery or any kind of treatment option that we know, like, this is really going to benefit them, but they just don't seem to be into the idea. They're nervous. They don't know what to expect. They don't think they're ready. How do we have those conversations and in a healthy way, try to encourage people to reach out and utilize resources in their community?
I think like explaining to them, that these things do work,
What about you guys? What do you think?
I think education, having them reach out. They don't necessarily have to come into a program before they investigate it. Call and talk to someone. Call and talk to a clinician or someone that's in the program. Ask the questions you need to ask. Those are oftentimes barriers people have in the way. They don't know what to expect. And if you have a real conversation, you come in, let's say you're homeless, you come in, we've got all of the supplies you need. Or if you come in and you don't have a way to provide nutrition for yourself, I have a cooking staff. We're going to feed you. If you don't have transportation, we'll work something out. If you don't want to share a room with someone, got you covered. These are things that are oftentimes the biggest barriers that people are afraid of, because living with 8 women can be
Intimidating, right?
very intimidating.
You have 8 different women, 8 different personalities, and all female staff. It's all women all the time, and of course my supervisor is a male, and he stays away from us as much as he can. But I don't blame him. But it's like I said, though, if they just call and talk to someone, we'll give them the information they want. We are not a locked facility. You come in, you start treatment, you feel like it's not for you. As long as we think you are safe, you are not a danger to yourself or others. We'll work with you. You don't have to stay in the facility. We'll work with you. We'll get you into outpatient service.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Regina, because, I'm Priscilla. Tell me what your thoughts are on this. But I do feel like a lot of the times people think that taking that first step to treatment is overwhelming, because it feels like you're making this huge commitment that, maybe you can't possibly honor that huge commitment, right? Like maybe you're just not feeling like you're in a place where you can do that. But I love what Regina's saying here is it's just a phone call. It's just reaching out. It's just getting to know people, seeing if you're comfortable. Was that how the process worked for you? I know you said you came from a furlough, right? So maybe you want to touch on a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I didn't know anything about recovery houses here in Lynchburg. I had never heard of going to meetings. I'd never been to a meeting, so all of this was new. But again, I guess it's like, what was I more afraid of? Was I more afraid of the consequences of my actions and my past addictions? Or was I, more, willing to get better? I mean, it was a different fear, but it was a positive fear, and that's taking that step has changed my whole entire life. So
yeah, sometimes as much as we don't like to be in positions where we're driven by fear, sometimes fear can be such a big motivator, huh? Yeah.
And change is scary. Change is
really scary.
It is.
And sometimes you need someone to, give you that little push to follow through with even being at a recovery house.
Yeah. So. Yeah, absolutely. So what were some of the changes that, Priscilla or Kendall, what were some of the changes that you guys had to make when you came to a place of, I'm ready to be committed to a recovery journey? What did that look like? Like, how did your life change from that point on?
Everything changed. I had to change people. I had to change places. I had to change things. I had to change certain routines. And all of that. Yeah, I just couldn't have anything that had to do with that past life, with that negative stuff. I couldn't keep that around at all. I had to change everything. Nothing changes if nothing changes.
So. Yeah, I had to completely move to a different house. And, for a while, I didn't go to meetings and things like that. So I just tried to surround myself with family or my kids or, things like that until I had the resources to be able to, know where a meeting was. Or like she said, it was all new to me.
Yeah.
I'd never been, exposed to anything like that. So,
So when you made those changes in your life, I'm sure that there had to be some replacement, right? Like, we spend all of our time doing X, Y, and Z. We now have to find, A, B, C to fill all that time, right? So for you said, Kendall, it was your family and your children.
Yeah. And social workers helped a lot where I was in drug court. For me, like I said, it was the push, I needed that push and I needed encouragement. And as much as I didn't want to, like I started involving myself with church or volunteering at places to meet new people or just trying to get out some, because that's really hard.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you, Priscilla?
Yeah, service work is definitely a huge thing. I actually started volunteering at a local food pantry in my early recovery. And of course, they said do 90 meetings in 90 days. I must have did 300 and something meetings. I was never at the Denver house. I was at every meeting.
Yeah.
That was, a fresh start at life. And so I started volunteering at a pantry at a church. and recently in January became part of the leadership team for Celebrate Recovery. So it's a Christ-centered, 12-step group. But yeah, I mean, that's it. Just resources, reaching out, being active in the community.
And I'm curious, what are some of or maybe just one of the ways that you feel like or one of the areas where you've grown the most when you look back and you look at that person that, was still on the fence about whether or not recovery was something that they felt was achievable for yourself, or, even in the knit and grit of the process that we know is tough, right? Like there's just so many tough things that you have to work through. And then you think about where you are today, right? You're sitting here and, hopefully we have the chance to encourage some folks that may be in a similar place, right? So tell me, where do you think you've grown the most and why?
I think it's mainly like knowing my self-worth, really having I don't know the word.
That's it. That's good. You took the words out of my mouth. Having self-worth, like knowing who I am as a person and what I deserve.
And what we can do,
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And you all are impacting so many people. Just our women's recovery program alone, I think Regina said, has served over 1,000 women.
We have, yes.
Yeah. And I know Horizon Behavioral Health has a wide range of services. In addition to women's recovery, we've served almost 12,000 individuals. That's including adults and children. So, there's a lot of resources out there, right? There's a lot of resources out there. So what would you say to some of our listeners that are tuning in and maybe they're coming from our community, maybe they're tuning in from somewhere else around the world? How would you encourage them to reach out and find resources in their community?
I think you have to get through the uncomfortability, just push, just keep doing it, because it'll eventually become where it's not new to you anymore, where you'll start getting comfortable with the new people and, you have to change your whole way of life. So,
and it's so attainable, right? I mean, at the time when you both first reached out and was like, okay, I decided I need help, I'm going to ask for it. Did you feel like you were going to get the help you needed, or did you feel confident in your ability to get what you were after? You were looking for full recovery.
I think the first and hardest thing is just realizing that I needed help, and then being vulnerable enough with myself to ask, because everything's there, so for me, I feel like, if I ask for help, there's always somebody that's willing to help, and I'm one of those people, like, I'm willing to help, but that was there for me. And so just asking, it's there. People are there to help. And that's the most important thing. But I mean, there's numbers everywhere. I mean, there's all kinds of, flyers. I know CVAR, which is stands for Central Virginia Addiction Recovery Resources. I know it's a coalition, and I know Horizon plays a place in that. And but yeah, there's just numbers. So just calling, just reach out, and it'll happen.
Getting connected.
And NA and AA are both online. If you're not comfortable going into a in-person meeting, you can join NA or AA online, any meeting, 24 hours a day, to get started, to see what it's about, and reach out from there. It's pretty easy to find. Just Google NA or AA meeting, and it will give you a list. You can get into those. That was huge during the pandemic. That grew immensely during the pandemic. So that's available to everyone. It's free. Try that out. And again, like Priscilla was saying, there are numbers everywhere. Call your local community service board, call your local hospital, call your local Department of Social Services. These places have the numbers, they have the resources, they will send you in the right direction.
You just have to put in the effort.
That's right. Yeah, I had a little motto in early recovery. If I just put half the effort into my recovery as I did into not seeking help, I have a maid. I got a maid in the bank. I could get anywhere, anytime, all of that stuff back then. So, I mean, if I just put half that effort into my recovery, I was good. And here I am, one day at a time doing it.
Yeah, and I'm sure that, in the beginning and all the way through at any place of recovery, I'm sure there's always going to be doubts of, just today and here in this moment, like, can I succeed? What do you say to yourself in those moments of doubt where you may be doubting yourself or just where you are in life?
Honestly, I doubted myself a lot in the beginning, but now, where I've grown so much, like I was homeless before I got clean, and I have a home, I have my kids, like I just look at all that I've gained during the process of being in recovery, and it just motivates me to just keep going.
That's amazing. The power of reflection, right?
And having a job too that like allows you to be yourself, and like you don't have to hide that you've had criminal charges, or like that you've done drugs before. I know there's such a stigma on addiction, but you don't have to hide any of that. You can use that as someone's motivation. So
Yeah. And your experiences are such a tool, right? To help the people around you. You guys are both living, walking, breathing examples of that, as you're pursuing or have already completed your peer recovery specialist certification. It's just such an amazing role to be in, to help other men and women, like yourselves, who have been through a lot of the same challenges in different ways.
Absolutely. I'm definitely a miracle.
So I'd love to just kind of wrap up our conversation a little bit here today by, I want to know, where are you both at in your recovery journey today? And I'm sure our listeners want to know like a little bit more about you and your life. And they've heard already about a lot of the hard work that you've put in and some of the programs that you got in touch with that helped you along the way. So, where did it land you? Kendall, I know you mentioned you've got some kiddos at home.
I do.
What are your kids' names?
Savannah, Jackson, Harlan, and Hudson. So I have one girl and 3 boys.
Oh boy, that sounds like a lot of fun. And their age ranges are pretty close?
7, 6, 4, and 1. So
wow,
I'm pretty busy.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. Awesome. And how long have you been with Horizon, Kendall?
A little over a year now. So.
And are you enjoying your role so far?
I am. I think this is the only job that I've ever actually enjoyed, just being able to do what I love and, giving back. So,
yeah, we like to say sometimes the work that people are doing here across the agency is really just passion and action. And it's such a unique place to be because so many folks, right? I mean, you go to work, you do your job, you collect a paycheck, but when it's something that's close to the heart, like this work that we get to do every day, it is really special, isn't it?
Yeah, something you really enjoy. So
yeah.
It almost doesn't feel like work,
Yeah.
So.
And Kendall, how many years of recovery are you celebrating this year?
On April 26th this year, I celebrated 4 years clean. So
wow, it's
a long time.
Together for that.
Thank you.
Amazing. It's amazing. And your kids have probably played a huge role in.
Yeah. This sounds sort of selfish, but when I first got clean, I said I didn't get clean for my kids, and that sounds pretty bad, but I got clean for me. I continued using when I did have my kids, when they were a lot younger, but I think this time I really did it for me. So I had to fix me before I can be a good mom.
That's so important.
And that's something that we do and encourage. You have to be able to take care of yourself. You have to do it for yourself before you can take care of anyone else. So
absolutely.
Good for you.
And it's tough.
Yeah.
So.
And you, Priscilla, you are on your way to becoming a certified peer recovery specialist. How many years or months or days of recovery are you celebrating this year?
Oh, I'm sure I have an app that can tell you up to the hour and minute.
Yes, I love it.
But April 22nd of this year, I picked up 5 years clean.
Wow.
So.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yes.
Congratulations. What would you say was one of the biggest challenges along the way?
One of the biggest challenges I would say was with me trying to get, just unsupervised visitation of my son. Because again, it didn't matter who it was that I was hurting or where I was going or whatever, in my active addiction, it just didn't matter. I hurt everybody around me, lost everything, and now I'm getting it all back. So it's nice.
Yeah. And your son, where are you guys still able to stay in touch?
Oh, we stay in touch all the time. Yeah, we see each other on a regular basis, although he's been on vacation for the past month, which is getting on my nerves because I have mama withdrawals.
Yeah, and
You know.
we're stuck here in the mountains when we want to be in the beach.
I know. So, but he's enjoying his summer, and yeah, our relationship is definitely good.
He must be really proud of you.
He is,
Yeah.
and that means a lot as well.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I wish that we had him here on the call today so that he could kind of share what it has meant to him to see you, pour into all of the areas in your life that you have been able to improve and grow and, achieve those goals that you said you set for yourself. I'm sure as an example
sure
for
he would
him.
love this.
I'm sure it goes beyond words.
So he's 14. He would have loved to have been here and been on this thing. He's just something else. But I was extremely blessed. He's understanding. I've been honest with him, and that's the big thing when it comes to recovery is being honest with yourself so that you can be honest with others. It's very freeing. It's just I couldn't be more happy right now in life.
That's so wonderful to hear. Well, I'm so happy for you both. And it's just wonderful to have an opportunity to sit down and talk with you about your life and the real stuff, right? The stuff that we don't get to talk enough about. We don't get to have these conversations on the fly, which, is such a bummer because they can be so uplifting, I think. And not only to us, right? But the folks that may be listening that, we don't know what they're going through. And so if there's some folks here listening in today on this call and they're in a tough place. They haven't reached out for help. They don't know how to do it. They're nervous. And, maybe they do or do not even want to recognize that they are struggling with addiction. What is something that you would say to them on that call today?
Honestly, I don't know. I would just tell them, just ask the questions, be uncomfortable. Sometimes you have to be uncomfortable in the moment. So I don't know.
What are some signs that you knew that you were struggling with addiction? It was something that you just could not get past yourself. Like what finally kind of struck that nerve of okay, this is enough is enough.
Having my kids taken.
Yeah.
Like domestic stuff, like fighting with people and, it's always, oh, you have a problem. No, I don't.
Right.
I don't have a problem. And then, I think the kids is the big thing, just knowing that I was letting them down. And I got to a point in my addiction where I wouldn't necessarily ask anyone for help. I would just say, hey, I need someone to, help me check into a rehab. Or I would do off the wall stuff to try to get arrested so I could go to rehab or, things like I was calling out for help, but, I guess not in a way that most people would understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it's great to know for people that are listening that are unsure how to help a loved one or unsure to know if a loved one maybe needs help.
Yeah.
Those are definitely some things to watch out for. How about you, Priscilla? Anything else to add, or Regina?
I think I'll add on to what Kendall was saying. So getting into treatment doesn't work the first time. Not necessarily. You may have to go through several different treatment programs, several years of counseling, but build on what you have or you have learned through each one. Relapse is possible. It does not mean that you're not capable of going into full recovery. Build on the skills you have, build on the resources that you've been given, and continue to try. It is a very difficult journey. It is a lifelong journey. And you're always going to need that support. You're not be able to give support, but you can continue to reach out, continue to seek help.
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing for me in knowing that I was to a point where I needed help or that I had a problem was, losing everything. But it wasn't, I guess the icing on top of the cake was knowing that I had a lot of jail time over my head. So I thought I had a life, but I was really about to not have a life. And that was, the turning point for me. But just seeing how I had, I guess my signs the most were I lost interest in my active addiction, and things that I knew that I loved.
Like what?
Like just going out roller skating, just, being out in public, maybe going out to eat, or, reaching out and being around the good friends, quote unquote, I couldn't go around the good ones anymore because, I had crawled inside myself. So that was really when I realized, that I needed a problem. But again, swallowing my pride was very, very hard. So I chose the hard road, instead of just reaching for help. But I definitely encourage somebody to reach out, even if it's just a phone call to someone that you don't even know. It's worth it.
Mm-hmm. We have another guest here with us, Amir Cotton. Hey, Amir.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing well. Amir is a program manager at Horizon Behavioral Health who also works in our women's recovery program.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So, we were just talking a little bit about the women's recovery program, and I'd love to kind of hear from somebody that's deeply involved with everything that's happening and the services that we provide out of that program. How would a person know if they're a good fit for a program like a residential program, such as the one that we have here in Bedford for women who are looking to achieve recovery?
Well, I think that one of the things that a prospective client would want to look at is the level of commitment, because it is a residential program. So essentially you're living there with us for a little bit. And that's very different than an outpatient program. So making sure that you have that understanding and willingness to stay with us for a little bit and be outside of your home. And also recognizing that our program is a little different than some of the residential programs or inpatient hospitals that may pop up and come to mind when you think about a residential program. A program is not as intense. It's a little more of a homier vibe there. And there's more autonomy and freedom there. So that level of commitment is super important, because you have to be willing to consent to following these rules and putting limits on yourself and really participating in the program.
Yeah, I love that. So it kind of reminds me of a lyric on a song that's, I want to hold you close, but not hold you back. Right. So I guess that's kind of like what the theory is behind that residential program is, giving folks the support that they need to be as successful as they can, but also the freedom, right, that they need. I know Priscilla was talking about how she did feel like she had that autonomy when you were in that program, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's crazy because you're allowed to be your own person, but you're in there with a lot of other personalities. So I don't see how they do it and they stay sane. Ones that are running the house, but yeah, having just enough freedom and, to be able to do that, but having help and resources, it's really important. It was awesome.
Yeah. We have some wonderful staff members that are running the house. Obviously you guys have talked to Regina already, so you know that she is the glue that holds all of it together, and everyone gets a little stressed out when she's not where we want her to be. But yeah, we do have some wonderful staff that really do care about the ladies that come through our program.
And what does it look like? So say I decide that I'm ready to make a commitment to that kind of program. Like what is my day going to look like in this new environment that's kind of a home away from home, as it were?
Busy. So when you and Regina may have to help me through, but when you get all established and completed all your necessary paperwork for the program, you're gonna fall into the group schedules that we have. In the morning, we have a check-in group with our ladies, our res techs. They get everybody up and let everybody know the check-in group is starting. And we just go over goals of what they're doing for the day, some goals that they're going to be working on for the week and their focus.
Is this ringing some bells, Priscilla?
Oh, it's definitely ringing bells. I remember it very well.
Any appointments, that type of deal. Depending on the day of the week, you may have to book it over to IOP, the Intensive Outpatient Program. That's where they do their, I think it's like 2 hours, 2.5 hours of intense group therapy. 3 hours,
3 hours,
Thank
three
you.
times a week.
Mine's there. That's fine. 3 hours, 3 times a week. Thank you. Where they're focusing on substance abuse treatment in a group setting with the other ladies in the program, but also other members within the community. So a little break after that, so the ladies can eat lunch.
And
Have-
there's a chef on staff, right? So
Yes, we do have
meals
our
prepared
cooking
for?
staff. Yes, and I think that our cooking staff do a wonderful job of making sure that they balance healthy, nutritious meals with meals that taste good.
Oh, I
That's
agree.
important.
I agree
Yeah,
with
that's
that.
it's a tough balance, but they do the best that they can, and I think they do a really good job. But yeah, so they do get time for that with lunch and a little bit of a break, depending on I guess the specific needs of the lady that is in our program. They may have some outside responsibilities. I don't know. Some of them may have to attend to other appointments outside of our program.
And we support them in
Mhm,
helping them get all those things
Yeah.
lined up. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Regina had mentioned we also have our in-house groups where we're helping with different coping skills to help translate how to deal with these things outside of the program, because life in recovery is very different than life outside of recovery, right?
A little bit.
So they do try to help with that transitions in those groups. Trying to think. So after that, I do believe that they have like some evening AA or NA groups that they go to. We do that, and we do have a curfew. So I'm trying to remember the curfew. It's 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock curfew.
Spoken with such confidence.
Nine.
I love it.
That 9 and a question mark.
Well, those boundaries and schedules, all those things we know are, supportive and
Yeah.
helpful to somebody. As silly as it sounds, is, we preach to our kids how often that schedules and routines are so, so important. But it's somehow when we get to adulthood, we reach a place where we're like, we don't need that anymore. But in fact, we sure do. We sure do. I know it helps. It helps keep me sane. The 3 different calendars I've got going on here on my phone. It's interesting trying to keep up with life, isn't it?
Oh, I
Sometimes.
can definitely relate to the multiple calendars. Somebody's like, can you do something? I'm like, oh my goodness, let me look at this. Oh, wait, you have to wait till I get home because that calendar's got something on it, I'm sure. I'm sure I've missed it somewhere.
Yeah. Well, Amir, I'd love to just ask you one other question. So why is a person's environment so key in their achieving recovery?
Yeah, the environment is definitely a big thing because it can influence that progress or even a little bit of regression depending on what you have around you. One of the big things that's really cool about recovery is that you're in a supportive environment, and I think that Priscilla mentioned this. You have people that are showing you unconditional positive regard, that are there for you and want to see you succeed. That smile, that positive affirmations that you will receive while you're there to help push you in the right direction. And that is a little bit different outside depending on the person's support system and situation. So you may not have that same level of positivity, which could make it a little challenging, not impossible, but challenging because you're fighting against those internal struggles and those external struggles. So
Yeah. So I would imagine some of the ladies that come to the program have almost never really experienced what it's like to be around a group of people or a group of women and specifically who they know aren't judging them for the decisions that they've made. Or, we talked about some of the stigma around substance use and, I can imagine how freeing it must be to be in an environment where, like you said, you don't have to hide the things that you have going on in your life, and in fact, you can be proud of the fact that you're committed to wanting to make progress on those things. So I imagine that's a big part of the environment too. Am I right?
Oh, yeah, you're definitely right. I was sitting here giggling to myself because, for me as a woman, I hold grudges. And so And so being in a, in a recovery environment, living with a whole bunch of women, just knowing that no matter what different level we're on, knowing we've all come from a similar background. Some of us, obviously more trauma than others, but just having that safe environment where everybody's on the same schedule and where you offer, they offer group therapy to help kind of mold you into interacting with others again versus, one-on-one therapy and having that peer recovery specialist there and, those different resources again, just 100% positive support, It's okay to be that. It's okay to have those feelings. Let's see what we can do to help.
Yeah. That's an important place to be in. And it's important when you are in that place that you've got folks there that are rooting for you and have faith in you and want to see you succeed.
Yeah. I think it's all about perspective. You really have to believe that they're there to help you,
Mm-hmm.
So
it's certainly
changing
it's a
your
choice,
mindset.
right? I guess.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you guys all on behalf of Horizon and our listeners for being put a part of today's discussion and being willing to have difficult conversations in hopes that someone listening can benefit from, what you've experienced and learned along the way and all the things you shared here today. So to our listeners who have tuned into today's episode, let's not let the discussion end here. Let's keep it going. So go home, have these conversations with your friends, with your families, and in your communities. And as you do, know that we are here celebrating recovery alongside you loudly and proudly.
Thank you for joining us on the Recovery Journey podcast with Horizon Behavioral Health. Remember, our greatest triumph is not in never failing, but in rising up every time we fall. If you live in Central Virginia and you or a loved one is ready to reach out for help, call Horizon today at 434-477-5000 to schedule your first appointment. Let us walk this journey with you, and together we can find hope and healing on the horizon.